Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, this is the Zero to Hero episode on the Tornado Werebear. So, I had a really weird moment on stream the other day with this build. Um, I was talking about my recent exploits as this is the 16th 10 out of 10 Harbinger, meaning that I've done this 16 times already. And there were a lot of people in my chat that just weren't aware of exactly what goes on with these runs. So if you don't know, we are playing in solo character found. We go from level 1 on a fresh character, no gear whatsoever, no help from anyone else. It is a fresh start, fresh economy, whatever you want to call it, right? In terms of COF, right? We're going from fresh level 1 all the way to 10 out of 10 harbingers every single time. My recent times were about like, I think, let's say 10 to 14 hours on average. Like I started at 14 hours and now I was at like 10 hours on average. This recent build that you're seeing right now, 8 hours. 8 total hours cut into 2 gaming sessions. I got 2 monoliths, took a nap, woke up, did the rest on a stream as well. So we are really just pushing the absolute limits of last Epoch. We are pushing the limits of the builds I'm playing. We're pushing the limits of my characters, and we're pushing the limits of my sanity, mind you. I just want to make it clear how ridiculous this is for a character to perform this well 8 hours into the character. But I just want to let you know this is like getting very close to like Falconer tier of shenanigans, right? So let's talk about the build. This is going to be Tornado Werebear. If you don't know, this is a archetype that I accidentally popularized a few months ago due to the fact that I wanted to try transform swapping alongside Tornado to sustain my mana costs. As after I tried it with Avalanche, I was like, screw it, why don't we try it with Tornadoes? Turns out it is insanely strong. The idea, the concept, is we cast a very large amount of tornadoes. These tornadoes all cast Gathering Storm procs for us. Great. Cast that at a pretty decent rate as well. And then we specialize into Gathering Storm to do a lot of lightning damage. There's a lot of refinements that we've done since the last time I played the character, but we'll get into that later. After we cast all our tornadoes, we run out of mana, and then we transform into Werebear. Transforming into Werebear gives us 2 things. It not only gives us access to the node that gives us flat damage based on strength, it also gives us access to the massive 40% more multiplier for 6 seconds after transforming into Werebear. It also gives us access to the Shapeshifter buff, which is like another 50% increased damage, 75% crit multi, and 75% crit chance. By the way, at the end of this character, I was 100% crit capped. Kind of funny, to be honest. But yeah, we spend all our mana, transform to Werebear, wait for Werebear to end, and then transform out of Werebear. Now, the reason why this build is so strong is because we are completely abusing almost every single game mechanic in existence. Like, this build is effectively the poster child for utilizing mechanics, let me tell you. So there's a node inside Gathering Storm that allows you to do more damage with your Storm Bolts based on the maximum amount of mana that you have. Now, this node is balanced by the fact that you consume like a percentage of your mana every second. Normally, this means that your tornadoes aren't going to do that much damage because not only are you consuming mana for the tornadoes, you're also consuming mana from this node. But it turns out you can swap to Werebear form, abuse the copious amounts of rage and rage on hit, on boss hit, and rage on crit and on kill as well, and just abuse that to keep ourselves topped off. We could probably go even to like 800 mana and still keep ourselves topped off. Like our sustain is just that strong currently in terms of our rage, which is cool. All that combined means that we stay at the top, we get all these more damage multipliers, we spam all these tornadoes, and the build ends up doing absurd amounts of single target damage. Another refinement that we did is it turns out because of the way that the tornadoes work, last time I made stationary tornadoes. Stationary tornadoes are really good if you're trying to go for specific different versions of the build. But my problem with it was like, well, it turns out if you're running the Gathering Storm version, like the Stormbear version, you don't have to actually have standing tornadoes, which saves a lot of points on the tree, and you don't need as many plus levels, which is cool. Um, that's like really nice because it allows us to grab all the mana efficiency and cast speed inside tornado, which is great, right? But all of that combined leads to an insanely strong build that is probably going to get nerfed into the ground next patch. Uh, Sometimes the developers do watch my videos, and this is probably going to be a build that gets touched, at least in some way or some form. If it doesn't, uh, I don't know. I don't know what I'll do. Probably play it. Who knows? It's very strong. So yeah, let's think about it here for a little bit, right? Like, what could they do to nerf this without completely killing? In my humble opinion, what I would wish them to do is I would wish them to make it so that the current mana consumption or whatever, right? The, more damage based on your mana, I wish that would only work for storm procs, like the procs of your storm bolts, right? The actual like consumption of your storm bolts. Cool. So outside sources that cast it, like for instance, tornadoes, do not use it. But then buff base Gathering Storm to make up for that. So now obviously not all the way, but some. So that will also buff the normal Gathering Storm while also nerfing all of the other versions of Gathering Storm that aren't utilizing storm stacks, because the mana consumption node is balanced when you take into account the storm stack stuff, but it's not balanced when you run a bunch of tornadoes. So yeah, we'll see what happens. The thing is though too, is like this build is strong, but it's strong because not only do I have to cast a bunch of tornadoes, I have to transform into Werebear form, and then I have to maintain my swipe buff. That's a lot of effort. I also have to cast like Warcry. That is a lot of effort for a build, right? Like a lot of people, they're very lazy. They don't like pressing that many buttons, which is understandable. But like, even like, let's say you didn't press that many buttons. Let's say that you don't even have like swipe on your bar. You just completely ignore swipe. This build would still be great. I just put on swipe because I'm a DPS whore and I like to abuse the dual wielding button, which you don't even have to do. You can just go like a two-handed staff or something and do even more damage. Just like I just wanted to utilize swipe because I like swipe. So yeah, that's cool. Now, if you haven't already, I'd heavily suggest leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel, as that is the best way of currently supporting me and the best way to show me that you want more content like this on YouTube. Also as well, I stream these runs on Twitch, so if you want to see some of the runs in action, heavily suggest checking me out there. Now, let's go and talk about the build, shall we? New character, new me, number 16. This is going to be the real Storm Bear, as there's a lot of people that play the like the Rampage version of Storm Bear, which I don't really think is good right now in general. Like it's okay, like fine, but this is like the superior version by like multiple magnitude. Now, what's really cool about this build is we can actually swap into the build very early on in the character's career. So we're going to be leveling with, of course, Gathering Storm, but we're going to very quickly swap into Werebear form, which is great. Like I said, equip Gathering Storm, and we're going to actually be starting to specialize it towards the build we're going to be playing. Normally, I don't suggest doing this, but we can swap very early into the build that we're going to be playing, which means that like it's completely worth it. Even with the mastery respecs, it's not really worth leveling with Storm Totem on this build because you can just simply swap into Tornado Werebear very early on. Orion's dead. Act 1 is done. Next act. We're going to skip a little bit around here because really all it is just taking Gathering Storm and scaling it while you're trying to level. You're kind of in this really awkward middle point where you're not really a build yet, but like, you still do enough damage to do fine. Like pretty much like, let me put it like this. The little grind that you do in the beginning with Gathering Storm is completely worth it in the end game, as you will see. Like, trust me, it is a little bit of pain for just one of the smoothest rides of a character I've ever had. Now, we're already around level 20. Around then, you can swap into, guess what? Tornado Werebear. Look how quickly you can do that. Thankfully, because of the fact that we don't need permanent Werebear form and we don't need to be inside Werebear form, it turns out we can swap it at literally level 20, baby. Look at that DPS though. We're just getting started, man. Just getting started. What's really convenient for this build is because even if they fix the bug that is currently ailing Gathering Storm and Tornado, where you get absurd amounts of AoE, like range and shit like that, it's fine because you just simply like it's still a big enough range that you're not having that too many of issues, right? To kind of like replicate when it gets fixed, I did not go for any of the range nodes inside of Tornado. I only went for the Gathering Storm strike range inside Gathering Storm just for now. But of course, to fix it, all you'd have to do is just take the 3 points out of Tornado that is dedicated to cast speed and put it inside the range, and you'd be just fine. Here's our Hearten here. As you can see, dump our mana, and then swap in a Werebear form and do a decent amount of damage. One thing to note, early on, you don't have enough mana to sustain your kind of swap as easily. So what you should do to maximize the debuff on, of course, Werebear form, where you get the 40% more damage, I would suggest waiting till the end of the cooldown before casting your tornadoes, at least early on. Once you have more cast speed and more mana, like just total mana, it gets a lot easier to maintain your rotation, and then you just start kind of chilling after that. To give you an idea of how much the DPS is already ramping, here is Spymaster's Eric. Oh, wait a moment. Look how quickly he's dying. Isn't that beautiful? Just absolutely beautiful damage already, and we're not even done yet. As you can see here, the clear is pretty good, as the tornadoes, they just simply start spreading out, and because of that, they cover more area in general, and it ends up being more convenient for you. Normally, I wouldn't go for the expanding area version of tornado like this, but it's just really convenient for this build. Now, one thing to note, this build has very poor, just insanely poor visual clarity on bosses. So you have to be on your toes in terms of dodging boss abilities. I would suggest being a lot more defensive than I end up being. Like, I'm usually a lot more aggressive with my playstyle, but I would heavily suggest like being more defensive when it comes to bosses, mainly due to the fact that like, like they could put AoEs under your feet and you wouldn't know because Tornado has a really cancerous MTX currently. It looks awful, but it's okay. We do so much damage. It's like small price to pay, potatoes. Here's the twins here. As you can see, damage ramping. The moment we transform into Werebear form, it applies the 40% more damage from Werebear form. It applies the strength stacking that we have for flat damage, and then it also applies all of our damage while transform stuff that we have, which I use copious amounts of, and then it also applies all of the more damage based on the current mana that we have. So all of that combined leads to us maybe quadrupling or quintupling our damage for free. Woohoo! Here's our first monolith. So for the Monolith of Fate, the concept is to simply just kind of go through the rotations. You just put down tornadoes, swap into Werebear form, walk to the next screen, do it again. Now, of course, this is a little annoying at first because you're just not used to the playstyle. Trust me, I know. I'm the one who originated the build. I know the playstyle is a little wonky sometimes, but it is entirely worth it in the end. As you can see, like, even if we just like spam a bunch of tornadoes out and then swap into Werebear form, we just move to the next pack, turn off Werebear form, and then do it again. Now, of course, you can make your clear a lot more comfy if you grab cooldown recovery speed on your gear, as you can swap out of Werebear form faster. The faster you can swap out of Werebear form, the more you can rotate your buffs while you're clearing, because you don't really need the full 6 seconds of uptime on your buffs when you're clearing. You just simply need more tornadoes and more mana sustain. As you get more and more mana though, so like right now I do like one set of casts of tornado, as you can see, and then I move on. But Once you get actually more max mana, you can cast like multiple salvos of tornadoes on multiple screens and then transform into Werebear form. So essentially, try to go for as much max mana as humanly possible. The max mana and mana regen mod is your friend on weapons. You just want to get as much flat mana as possible, whether that be on body armor, on your weapon. You can use a crystal staff. There's a lot of different ways of getting that mana, and it's completely worth it. Trust me, completely worth it. Here's our A-bomb here, or should I say, was our A-bomb. As you can see, our damage is ramping. Here's the second monolith. Now, one thing I will note, at the end of the character's lifespan, I was a little bit squishier than I would like to be in general, but that's because I'm a dual-wielding werebear without that much HP while also being 8 hours into the character, right? I don't know how I can stress this more, but like being 8 hours into the character and being at 10 out of 10 harbingers, remember, that's at 300 corruption. That's 300% more health and damage by all the empowered enemies. That is a lot. Now here's our Rye. Normally I cut in between the boss fights and I don't end up showing most of them, but the boss fights on this build end up being so fast that I can just simply fill the airwaves while I wait for the boss to die and not end up talking that long because, you know, we just do that much damage. It literally is just that crazy. Swap into Werebear form and you're done. Third mono here. So this is where I would like to show you how the build ends up feeling after getting a little bit more mana. As you can see, we're at 286 mana now. Now I can simply put down a bunch of tornadoes and not have to constantly swap into Werebear form. We are significantly more like, what would you put it? Like comfy than before. Because before we would do a whole salvo, swap into Werebear form, and then, you know, swap out. But now we can just simply put down some tornadoes every so often while we're walking around, and then, you know, do it again, and then do it again, and then swap into Werebear form and refill it. And this gets better and better and better as you get more and more mana. So this is going to be one of the most entertaining boss kills I've ever had playing this game. I'm like, just pay attention to Lagan's HP bar, or, you know, if you can catch it with your eye. I did not know this. Turns out, even if you quote unquote kill Lagan, he forces you into his little stupid cutscene, which is kind of annoying, to be honest. I kind of put all that effort into this build to, like, you know, do all of my rotations properly, and I've killed Lagan. He's sitting up there dead waiting for me, and I'm killing his tentacles. It's kind of awkward. Like, it's just kind of awkward, man. Like, as you can see, we are already at 448 mana, which is absurd amounts of mana this early on, but we feel really good. But as you can see, we go back up there and all of a sudden he dies, which is really freaking funny. Here's our Emperor of Corpses as well. Not really that much different than Lagan, except, you know, this time we don't have to wait through the cutscene. Remember, when you swap into Werebear form, you don't have, like, you can just swipe and get the buffs as well while you're in Werebear form, which is very convenient. Now here's our first level 90 mono. This is about where the build starts to look like what it looks like in endgame here. Lots of less like fidgeting with your mana and a lot more just pure carnage. Now we can just simply focus on playing the video game and not have to worry about our mana constantly, as even at 400 mana here, we have plenty to go around. Even with like 200 mana left in the battery, we got plenty of time in terms of clear and stuff like that. As you can see, it's just so much more comfy. Now, you must be wondering, Dread, why aren't you running the Rampage nodes? The nodes that give you lightning strikes when you Rampage. I think that is complete bait in terms of the nodes that you're putting in for it. There are just better nodes to grab. Like, for instance, all of the rage on boss hit and rage on kill, those keep you sustained and will also keep you sustained by the time you go all the way up to like 1,000 mana or something like that, right? Once you get into the more absurd amounts of mana, having the rage on hit nodes are going to be significantly more important than they are now. But like, trust me, the Rampage nodes are complete bait. If someone's telling you to grab them, don't do it. Just play with tornadoes It's so much better. Nairs or shamans, like I've always said before, simply try to, corral them together so that we can kill them together. Just try to manipulate their positions. But here, just simply dump our mana. Try to make sure you don't die. As you can see, this is where like the problems of not being able to see what the fuck I'm looking at comes in. As you can see, we swap in and all of a sudden they're all dead. All right, here's our hero out here. I'm not going to tell you how long this clip is, but let me tell you, it's a very, very short clip. It is very entertaining here. So we dump all our mana and then, oh wait, he's dead. As you can see, we are just ramping across Eterra and it's just so satisfying. Just so, so, so satisfying. Here's another clip that is very short. There was Elder Gaspar, a memory of him anyways. He is now dead. What's really annoying with the Harbingers is they stay up, so your tornadoes keep casting at them and stuff. So you end up like with less mana, but it's like whatever. Here's the Harbinger of Fear. I don't think we should fear the Harbinger of Fear. The Harbinger of Fear should fear us. As is tradition, let's unlock COF and get to chapter 9. Very easy Jurla kill here. Now here's a quick DPS check for you DPS junkies out there. As you can see, absolutely absurd damage. The synergy of this build is insane. Here's our first empowered monos. Now this is where I start paying for my prior actions, as this is probably maybe like 3 to 4 hours into the character, something like that. So I'm significantly squishier than I should be. I'm at 1700 HP on a druid and empowered monos. That is absurdly low. You should not be that low. I should have stopped and actually invested my gear a little bit, but I really didn't have the time. But like, I was just trying to go for a new record because I'm trying to beat my old record of only doing it in 10 hours, and we definitely did beat our record, let me put it like that. But because of that, I spend a lot less time actually caring about my gearing. So yeah, significantly squishier than I should be. You should like stop and actually put some HP on your gear and maybe cap your resistances. So here's the Harbinger of Chaos, the hardest Harbinger of the run. But yeah, not really that hard, is it, huh? Here's the first Orbis. I barely even have any time to speak. I am killing these bosses way, way, way too fast, as you can see. Oh, he's dead. So this one actually took a little bit of effort, mainly just because for some reason, the tornadoes weren't targeting the Idol of Ruin. So I had to like kind of maneuver myself around a little bit so I wouldn't die, because I'm currently at 0% void res. That was such an intelligent move by me, but whatever, who cares? We have enough damage anyways. So this is where I start experimenting. I did a little bit of a side quest and I farmed a decent amount of corruption while also working on trying to drop a Harbinger of the Stars belt, mainly because I just wanted to try it, but and ended up not being as good as I wanted. So we ended up just swapping right back into Stormbear, but I really wanted to try Harbinger of the Stars, but it really just isn't worth it anymore, unfortunately. So we swapped back out of Harbinger of the Stars and we swapped back into the normal Stormbear setup, which really wasn't hard. I also pushed a decent amount of corruption, but here's the fourth Harbinger. Really not that difficult, not as difficult as it is on other runs, like normal build runs, right? Just very, very, very nice DPS being showcased by our Werebear here. Speaking of, here's another Orbis. He has less damage taken and resistance on him. You would assume that he would actually survive for a decent amount of time. And you would be wrong. You would be wrong. Here's the Harbinger of War. So I actually had a few difficulties with this Harbinger on stream, mainly because I couldn't see the little cold puddles under my feet because there's too many tornadoes in the way. This is where that visual clarity starts to become a problem. I'm not necessarily the tankiest werebear ever, but like as you can see, I just face tank everything anyways because I just can't tell where the boss attacks are. So I end up just doing it myself. Here, I tried to swap back in Harbinger of the Stars for some fun, and it's just really not worth it. It's just not worth it. I tried a few times, I gave it a good shake, but it really wasn't worth it. Here's some 300 corruption gameplay real quick. This is at the pretty much at the end of the run. Because of the fact that I ended up farming the Harbinger of the Stars belt for so long, I ended up with such a backlog of envies that I was able to do like 5 Harbingers in a row. So what I did was I used the Glyphs of Envy, make the new boss fight, do it, next Harby, same thing. And we did like 5 bosses in a row. So we're going to be doing that like rapid fire right now here. 6th Harbinger, Harbinger of Pride. Oh, it took a little bit of extra. He was surviving by a sliver. 7th Harbinger. This one actually took a little bit of effort, but here you go. Here's him down. Surviving by a thread. There you go. So normally I don't do this, but I just wanted to show you this Herot real quick. I ended up killing him like without doing a single phase from him, which is just so cathartic, to be honest with you. Even with the 300 corruption version, like he didn't even get to phase, which was funny. But here's the Harbinger of Tyranny. So this is where, like I said, that visual clarity stuff comes in, because you don't have enough DPS to instantly give them at 300 corruption, which, by the way, I ended up fighting all 5 of the extra Harbingers at 300 corruption anyways. As you can see there, like, how the fuck am I supposed to see those goddamn void puddles when I have like 20 billion tornadoes on the screen? Like, riddle me this, Batman. What the hell am I supposed to do there? I don't fucking know, dude. Like, let me tell you, dude, it was a bunch of crock of bullshit, dude. Oh my god, trying to see where the void puddles were, especially considering you're kind of forced into melee range with this guy. Like, the only reason this guy took any amount of time is because I'm so fucking paranoid of the void puddles. 9th Harbinger down, very quick. All right, here's the 10th Harbinger. I'm actually showing the boss as well because I killed this boss so fast that I wouldn't have enough time to actually talk about the build if I showed only the Harbinger. So clear, pretty good. It's a little annoying to maintenance your mana, but as you get more and more max mana, not that big of a deal. Leveling. For the first like 20 levels, it sucks, but once you can swap into the tornado stuff, it goes absolutely badonkers. Absolutely badonkers. Okay. Survivability. A little squishy. It's squishy, but it's squishy in a way where, like, because of the fact that we're dumping so much into damage, Werebear can get tanky. There's like a lot of different ways to make Werebear tanky. So all you have to do is just put in just a tinge of effort into making yourself tanky. Remember, this character is only 8 hours old at this point. So like if you're like a casual who like doesn't like go as fast as me, you'll be tanky by the time you fight this guy. And of course the DPS, the single target. I mean, you can see it on screen. You can see it on screen. I think this clip is 1:20 for the entire fight. Every other clip is either 2 to 6 minutes currently on my itinerary here. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are in game. Let's go. So, Tornada. Idea, simply, Stormbolt here, Stormbolt frequency, make Stormbolt go faster. 2 tornado at once instead of 1 tornado. Simply grip mana, so more tornado. Then cast speed for more tornado. When bug fix, lightning range, just simply go for lightning range instead of cast speed. Werebear, 40% more damage. Strength, for more flat damage. Rage on kill or hit, this sustain you really well. Bringer of Storms, I like it because it makes me look blue. Otherwise, waste of a point. Gathering Storm. Damage, 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 and damage. Lots of damage. Range, to make my tornadoes hit in a farther range. Once bug fixed, remove nodes out of here, put it anywhere else, And then, of course, like I said, go for overcast skies. Here, we go for totem with pull to pull enemies closer so that lightning can shotgun multiple enemies. Go down here, grab haste and frenzy. The the totem will keep upping these buffs. And it's a cheap way of getting haste and frenzy when you don't have access to Maelstrom like this build doesn't. Lots of crit chance, lots of crit chance. Good. Also, lots of crit chance here, by the way. Swipe. Damage, 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 duration of said damage, or even dueling for even more damage from the swipe. All right, that's pretty much it for the skills. Who's this guy? Lock some more. What's up, buddy? All right, continuing on here. For passives that are important, grab as much attunement and strength as possible. Percent damage is also very important because a lot of your prefixes are going to be strength or attunement, especially on your chest, meaning that you need to put extra care and effort to get as much percent damage as possible on other sources of gear. Cool. Beastmaster, less damage taken, strength, very good node for you. Less damage taken by melee attacks, so you don't die to the Harbingers. Shaman here, get that cast speed. You want as much cast speed as humanly possible with this build, because the faster you dump your mana, the faster you can go into Werebear form and benefit from all those juicy stacks of damage. Druid, very good node. Literally 14 flat. Also a bunch of mana and also like just lots of damage. 7% pen and increased damage. Increased damage here as well. Cast speed, crit chance and health leech on crit. Lots of armor and of course flat damage. Eventually you can go for Harmonious Wisdom to get more crit avoid as well. Shapeshifter buff for the increased damage, which we direly need. Increased crit and crit multi, which is amazing. Lots of crit and rage on crit to sustain ourselves while clearing. Eventually 5 out of 5 of impervious so we don't die. And hide skin for HP. And then for the rest of the points I would put in, probably into just HP, into Tempest form, into Call of the Pact, and eventually grab strength if you need it. And that's pretty much it for the passives. Let's talk about the gearing. No mandatory uniques, completely uniqueless. Not a single unique in this build. And that's probably going to go in the title. One thing that is important is just getting a lot of flat strength or attunement on your chest. Pretty much getting a crystal wand with flat mana, and then of course eventually mana and mana regen. I just have percent damage right now. Try to get as much cast speed as possible too, as the more cast speed you get, the more damage uptime you have. Amulet here, just HP right now, some lightning percent on a decent base. Chest here, strength, crit multi while transformed, lots and lots of crit multi, and then HP, spell damage while transform works here as well. Also, so does attunement. Offhand here, Eagle Wing with that 4% base crit, that mana and crit chance as well, and Shred. What's really nice as well is this node here gives us a bunch of flat based on the flat honor weapon here. So since this has 48 flat, that is about like, I think 30 extra flat just from that node alone. Hence why we're running an X. Really cool. Bring here, strength, HP, resistance. Mana regen is actually a decent stat for you as it helps you cast more tornadoes in the time that you're, finishing stuff. Also as well, lightning percent damage, otherwise decent belt. Probably want it on the flat armor base. Ring here, percent spell damage, very good slot here. Strength, and then resistance, and eventually HP you want here. Gloves here, cast speed, strength, HP, good to go. Boots here, HP, attunement, movement speed, or strength, either one. Percent damage or strength or attunement, crit multi or crit chance or whatever, then resistance and HP, and then maybe sealed frailty if you don't have it. Which I don't have frailty. That explains a lot, actually. God fucking damn it. I don't have frailty, whatever. Shh, don't tell anyone. Percent damage, chance to get Thorn Totem on hit so that we can maintain the uptime on this. Percent damage, and then just some resistances and stuff to fill out my resistances. My resistances were ass earlier, and that's pretty much it for the character. That's pretty much it for the build. With all that being said, this has been Dread. I'll have to go do something else. Bye.